Culture Your Creative is really a platform to bring together people that are incredible in my eyes, that are doing incredible work. Hopefully you can learn from what they've done in the past and where they are now to inspire you to move on and do things yourself. I'm Luke Ledhill, the host. I run a brand development agency here in Los Angeles called Just Up the Road, helping spread a message and story of brands narratives. I also host the 21st Club think tank group, which brings together people that do good in social and environmental initiatives. So today I have a very good friend of mine, Mike Diamond. I'd like to bring Mike in so we can have a conversation. There he is.
Where am I?
Hello, Mike.
You got me?
Yes, mate. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, brother?
I'm very good. I'm very good. We had a little quick brief chat, catch up before we started this. I was thinking yesterday, actually, before we get into this, can you just say who you are and actually specifically what it is that you do?
Okay, I'm an author. I'm an interventionist. So I do drug and alcohol interventions and just intervene when people are making disempowering choices.
Wow. Wow. I think you sell yourself short on that, though, actually, because there's so much more depth in you and who you are and what you do.
Well, yeah, no, I'm very fortunate to have got sober 14 years ago after a very crazy, abusive upbringing and making really bad choices. Got kicked out of school. I was undiagnosed dyslexic, ADD, ADHD, born in Perth, Western Australia, which is geographically the most isolated capital city in the world. And I, at 16, actually, if you want to get deeper, I had to make a really big choice. It was like I got kicked out of school and, I was always in fight, flight, and freeze, being in, an being abused mentally and physically at school and at home. And I really came to that point and, it was either get it together or take my life. And so I was using it 12 years old. So
Wow.
I needed to mood alter. And what's the crazy thing, and this is so crazy that you should go deeper, is that there was a neighbor that grabbed me and saw I was struggling and just winked at me and just said, I swear to God, you're going to be okay. In 20 years from now, this won't matter. I just did Recovery Today magazine and got the cover, which was pretty amazing. The irony is when you're a kid, you dream of being on Rolling Stone and you get Recovery.
Right.
Not the magazine I expected, but at least I'm being of service. And she found me on Facebook 30 years later. She's a 7-year-old woman. And she's like, congratulations. And I said to her, do you remember, you really changed my life. You remember pulling me aside? She goes, oh, I remember you. Absolutely. I remember the moment. And she goes, I knew a switch went off. And she goes, I knew you'd go and do great things.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And blessing to you that she was, I guess, like a guiding person or angel, whatever you want to call her, at that point in your life to really set you off on the correct trajectory. And I mean, look, you said to me before we started this conversation that I don't want to go too much in deep on what's happening right now because we're all very aware of it. But what you mentioned is that it's allowing a global reset inside us. And I've thought about this a lot recently about what is a true influencer, right? And collectively, the people I know and the people I've had conversations with so far, including yourself today, for me, you are a true influencer. So to hear you say that you aspired to be on the front cover of Rolling Stones and ended up on the front cover of Recovery, that's truly inspiring. Okay, someone on the front cover of Rolling Stones magazine might inspire somebody else to become a musician or whatever, but deep down inside, what really matters is the work you do.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. I think right now, this is what's very interesting. Right now, more than ever, if you can't bring value to someone else, you have no value. It's all about the value. And to me, the value is to help you find purpose and close the gap from where you are to where you want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
how do I do that? And if you look at the reason people are struggling right now is because we've gotten too much too easy. And resilience and grit is a muscle that you have to train. You don't go into a jiu-jitsu class, you don't go in the Navy SEALs and Navy SEAL. You start from ground one, and you have to face the adversity. And the great Viktor Frankl put it beautifully, where you have to find purpose in the adversity. And it's not post-traumatic stress, it's called post-traumatic growth. You grow from the appropriate stress. But the problem is we've got soft, we've got conditioned to get anything when we want it, when we want it. But when you look at Maslow said a self-actualized human being knows how to get their lower needs met and then will reach the higher self-actualization.
Wow.
So we go out and buy 19,000 rolls of toilet paper. You don't need toilet paper like that. I've got colitis. I don't need that much toilet paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is making people really sit with themselves, and people don't know how to sit with themselves.
Yeah.
They don't know how to process emotion. We have got the attention spans of goldfish right now.
Yeah.
So this happened for a reason. There's a karmic reason to this.
Yeah.
It didn't just happen. Now people have to go, what do I really need, and what do I want? That's a big difference. You could need transport, but then you put yourself massively in debt buying a BMW. You're like, you don't need a BMW, you want a BMW.
Yeah.
So it's now to ask important questions, because this is, what happens if we're shut down like this till the end of the year?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you're 100% right. It hasn't made me do anything. It's opened my eyes and mind up to a lot more, which were always there, but I didn't give attention to. So a lot of the things you talk about, people bury or hide, especially when it comes to emotions. Now, the way I look at things, just to answer or elaborate on something you just said, when it comes to money, what do you actually want money for? Everybody wants money, right? But what this is allowing, or has allowed me to think more about deeper, is, well, actually, if I have more money, that enables me to be able to either help more people directly with money, or allows me or affords me more time to then give my time and energy into helping others.
Correct.
As opposed to, well, I want more money because I need I want more sneakers, or more of this or more of that. And I think we could go really deep on this, but before we do, I want to go back to, you and I ran a half marathon together in August of last year. And the reason for that was we'd only met very briefly prior to that. You told me that you were going to run a half marathon. Now, if anybody doesn't know what a half marathon is, it's 13.1 miles. You were going to run 13.1 miles every day for 30 days in the month of August last year. And that was to raise funds and awareness for Layla, very special girl. And you immediately caught my attention because I love running. I just thought, well, if you're crazy enough to put yourself through all of that, I'm in. I'm in. I'll run one with you for sure. And just explain a little bit, because you mentioned having colitis, but give me a bit of background on the kind of, not troubles, but what you've gone through to that point.
Well, it was really interesting. So my appendix burst, and I went into septic shock in 3 years ago, I think it was. And the doctor said he was going to take my colon out, and if he didn't, I'd die of colon cancer because of my ulcerative colitis. And I opted against doing it. I was like, you're not taking my colon out. I'll figure it out. So I healed myself. It took me about 6 weeks, but I was a broken man because I'd lost 50 pounds. I had stomach infections, and it was, then my baby came 7 weeks premature. And I feel like in life, when the rubber hits the road, like now in this global reset, we find out what people's true worth is. And Teddy Atlas says it great. When he talks to his fighters, he goes, the fire is coming. Are you a firefighter? You know, the fire's coming. What are you going to do when we find out your truth when you're tested? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyone can have faith in the feast. What about in the famine?
Yeah.
Where's your faith there? So I sat down one day and I was trying to get inspired, and I watched a woman run 100 miles, and I'd never run a half marathon or anything. And I was like, how did she? I'm a sprinter. I'm a physical. How did she do that? So I just said to my wife, I'm going to go out and push the baby a half marathon. And she's like, you don't even run. What are you talking about? I'm like, I need to figure out how someone could just enjoy it. And what happened is I pushed the baby a half marathon, and I really enjoyed the process. I started studying mindfulness running, chi running. I read a book called Born to Run, and I just started to change my whole philosophy on movement, running, meditation, and that kind of endurance, and where you have to really tap into your center and yourself. And then what happened was I started doing a few half marathons, so I really was drawn to Layla. And it literally came where it was like, I'm just going to break a world record, do 30 in 30 days. But the crazy thing is I ran with a hernia because I had a hernia that came out into my training, and I had a way out. And I think the most important thing, the reason I took on such a big challenge is, as a kid, as an addict, I was a super athlete. I got into acting to the same acting school as Hugh Jackman. He was about 5 years above me. And, you know, I opened up clubs with rock stars, but I fouled the ball a lot of times because I found a way out. And this time I was like, I'm not going to find a way out. I heal myself naturally. I'm going to do this. I want to find out the kind of, what have I got inside me? Can I do this? Can I really do this when I'm faced every day in the middle of August, wearing a diaper some days?
Yeah.
I crapped my pants a couple of times, got colitis. And it really changed my life because every day, it didn't matter what, I could run day 20. I ran one yesterday. What's today? And I went to work every day. So it was a really incredible, I think they say you run one marathon, it'll change your life. Yeah, run 30 halves, which is 15 full ones in a month of August. It changes your life. I'm not the same person.
I mean, it certainly changed my life, just the one that I ran with you, in the aspect of the respect I have for you, and it opened up a lot in my mind because of the conversation we had during that time. And just to, won't dwell on this too much, but just to reiterate the fact, it wasn't just 13.1 miles. I'm a runner, a seasoned runner, and I've run a lot of distances. Normally they're point A to point B. But you actually ran a 0.6 something of a mile loop.
Yeah.
Was it 30 something times around the park?
Up a hill, remember?
Right. And so I remember thinking, you know, I actually walked into that to run with you with the incorrect mindset, knowing that I can knock out a half marathon any day. But what I didn't expect to happen was that halfway through, or over halfway through running those loops, that loop kind of starts to break you down mentally, and you go through everything, and you go through all of that anyway when you run. But just that, something of that loop, knowing that, okay, you've come down a little bit of a decline, but you're going up an incline, and it's so repetitive. So I mean, huge respect for what you did, not just for a normal, healthy, fit person to do that, but the fact that you carried through everything that you have physically and did it. And to add to your point before, in the face of adversity, it's very easy to walk away with any example of an excuse, and that's definitely something you didn't do. And I think that speaks through the work that you do, with whether it's recovery or life coaching. So Mike, you told me some incredible stories on that run, and I know some can't be repeated, but at the beginning, when you introduced yourself, you really have sold yourself short. Give us a bit of the background of what you were doing in Australia and then in New York and some of those things.
Well, in New York, when I was in Australia, I went to acting school, and then when I was in New York, I fell into the club business. I didn't want to fall in the club business, and I was partners with the late great Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver, and I opened a bar with him, and it was literally one of the greatest bars in the world. So here I am, unfortunately, getting a dose of the wrong chemicals. I was doing massive. I mean, it's funny because when I do interventions now, I always ask someone, what are they doing? How are they using? And I was a bit of a freak because I would do an 8-ball of I could go through an 8-ball of cocaine, drink a bowl of vodka, but get up the next day and go to the gym like nothing happened.
Wow.
And that's a problem. You shouldn't be able to function at that level. And so what happened, it was a very, and I talk about rock bottoms, but to me it was spiritual. I was literally sitting with Scott and I could see that if I stayed on the train that I was going on, it was going to crash and burn. And he was arguing with his wife and they were having issues. And I just was like, you know what, I'm done. I just don't want to, I want to see what it's like to be the opposite. And I got sober years ago when I was a kid, and I messed with it. And probably because I'd made a lot of money and I had success and done shows, I thought I could just bullshit my way through it. And then I just literally, it was like a switch went off. I didn't go to rehab. I walked straight into meetings and did 3 meetings a day. I was very lucky. I got like 4 guys around me that had as much time as I do, 14 years. And I just listened, and I just shut up and I listened. And the crazy thing is, I fell into sober coaching by chance. What happened is, I shot a show in Australia called Bondi Ink, which was a spin-off of New York Ink. And I was going back and forth to Vegas. I was in Vegas, running the Cosmo as one of the directors, still helping people get sober. And then my wife said, don't do this anymore. We're buying a house in LA, get out of Vegas. I said, okay. And I said to a friend, look, I do my own little interventions that I'm looking to go deeper and, work with someone. And this company hired me. And it was like anywhere, anytime, I'd literally be sitting on the couch, a phone would ring, and I'd have to go to like the middle of Houston, Texas, and babysit a celebrity and literally sit in a hotel room for 5 days and detox them by myself and convince them to go to rehab.
Wow.
And I guess the reason I became sexual, there was no way out to me. Like, I was going to figure out how to get you safe. And I just would lay on the floor. I mean, I had days where I would literally lay on the detox floor for 5 days. And no sleep, couple of hours sleep, and I think I just went. That's the one positive thing about being an addict. If I go all in.
Right.
It's all in or it's not. So I use that power now in a positive way.
Yeah. I love that. You mentioned very briefly, and this is no reflection of the person you are now, so I don't want to dwell on it too much, right. But the fact that you helped to create a show, a huge TV show, which was, I remember when that first came out. Explain a little bit about that. What happened there?
Miami Ink. You mean Miami Ink?
Right.
Yeah. So this is a crazy story. So I was shooting a show with Scott Weiland for VH1, and the guy that was producing it was a guy called Charlie Colwyn, and he just randomly came up to me and he said, there's this interest maybe to do a tattoo reality show. And the truth of the story is, I was out with Army James partying, and he literally needed a job. He wasn't tattooing, and he said, I need to kind of get involved, and I need to do something. I need this. And I said, I can hook you up with Charlie, and that'll change your life. I think they're going to do this tattoo show. And Charlie created Miami Ink, which I was involved in, got all my tattoos done, and was, helped them on the back end. And then I ended up becoming the store. I helped Army run the store of New York Ink, because he said, look, I took a different approach to the tattooing. A lot of those guys, just great artists, but it was more like going there like a coach, like a life coach, a tattoo. You know what I mean? Someone I don't tattoo. And yeah, so Miami was I think it was the first, if I'm not wrong. There might have been something before it, but it was huge. It everything else spawned off Miami Ink.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That really is.
Well, you know what? Actually, it's so funny. Someone asked me the other day, I've done stand-up comedy, I've done the tattoo shows. I was a regular at the Comedy Store in LA, and they said, you've done so much, got record deals. Do you regret anything? I said, no, because everything, I believe, there's a great story. and I kind of tweak it. So the story goes that there's three guys working, and a guy goes over to the first guy and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm laying bricks." Goes to the second guy, "What are you doing?" "I'm building a wall." Goes to the third guy, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm building a cathedral." And the moral they say is that the guy building the cathedral has a mission, a purpose, right? Not just that. And I go, well, flip that. Let's just say it's three guys working on a cathedral. And he goes over to the first guy, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm laying bricks, it's my job." Second guy, "I'm laying bricks, it's my career." Third guy, "I'm laying bricks, it's my calling. I bring service and value to everyone with whatever I do, whether I'm building a cathedral or working at a barn." And I think for me, what I realized is whatever I take on, if I'm aligned with being authentic, I can bring service, emotional intelligence, social intelligence to any environment. And I think that's where you bring value.
Yeah.
Get out of my own way and realize that everyone's doing the best with the information they have, right? And maybe they need to expand their maps of reality a little bit, because you and I have to have different maps because we've experienced different information over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I think one of the important things you just said there, Sophia, who I spoke to, she's an incredible designer and illustrator. We had a great conversation, and I asked her some advice to give somebody, and she said just to give yourself permission. And you just said before about getting out of your own way. And when she said permission, I said that rings true, because you're the only one that can get in your own way, and I'm responsible for that myself. And I think that everything you say, that you just need to really realize what is important, right? Like, one question I have here: how important is it to know your purpose?
The most important thing in the world. Purpose, passion, I'll tell you what, purpose is more important than passion. You watch an athlete and says, "I'm passionate about basketball." They leave basketball, what happens? "I don't have a life." Not about passion. Passion's a feeling. It's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. Okay? You fall in love with purpose. Purpose is the glue that holds everything together when this kind of crap shows up. My purpose is to inspire, educate, motivate, live, love, and matter. How can I get on here and give people inspiration, motivation, and education? And not just be a PhD and go and test a bunch of animals at Stanford. Be a real scientist of myself, right? Go out and test shit. I know if someone says, "How do you get sober?" I said, "I'll get you sober." Why? Because I didn't go to a rehab. I can get sober. I worked in bars and I'm sober. I'm 14 years sober. You know, you can't lie. Even if I was Scott Jerkin, who's one of the top runners in the world, Scott Jerkin couldn't get out of bed if he wasn't running and run 30 half marathons in 30 days. You can't physically. No one can physically do it on natural ability. No one. You can't. It's a different mindset you have to train for, and that's why purpose is so important. Purpose drives you forward. Look, we all know what we don't want. We don't want to be homeless. We don't want to, be suffering. That's called away motivation. We know what we want to move away from. Well, here's a question: what are we moving towards, and why?
I love that. What are we moving towards, and why?
Right? Everyone's focused on, this happened to me. Don't focus on why something happened. Focus on how you can grow from the experience.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
And that keeps, right now, like you call me, I'm jumping on. Absolutely. I'm on so many Zoom calls. Absolutely. Do a talk. Absolutely. Why? Because you've got to give yourself permission to step into the role and then figure out. Now, I'm not going to do something that's against my values and my rules. And that's another thing. People don't know their rules and values. A value is great, but it's the rule. So, for example, you could value respect. I could value respect, right? But what's the rule to respect? And someone goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Well, two people are in an argument. The person says that person's disrespectful." Okay, but to your perception, what's disrespectful? "I didn't like their tone of voice." Okay. And you interviewed 20 people in the room. What was their tone like? "I didn't care about their tone of voice."
Yeah.
So if I know my rules are, first of all, I value my sobriety. The rule is I can't drink or do drugs. So if someone wants to do something with me and there's drugs and alcohol involved, I can't do that. I respect you, but that's just not part of my rules. because I want to, you know what I mean? So if
Yeah.
you stay on course, if you know your values and rules.
That's just, I wish that that could be taught every day to people, because, and not to sound negative, the way society structure is set up, that doesn't really fit in place.
No. Well, how's great this? So I went out. Look, here's the thing. If we connect with who we are authentically, really deep down, we won't act out and hurt people, because we will know what we need in the moment that we really need. And that the more time you spend outside worrying about everyone else and trying to please, the less time you spend inside actually being honest and truthful. So if I come inside myself, right, because human beings are motivated in two ways. We want to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So you can either, get a disempowering dose of pleasure, which is cocaine and alcohol and sex, like I did for years, or you can get empowering dose by meditating, doing work like this, which builds oxytocin and serotonin, right, and dopamine, because we're communicating like this. I'm not going to sit here and have a great experience with you and then go do bunch of cocaine. Not going to happen. That's why people go to meetings, right? They go into that, they identify with other people that have similar problems, and by sharing your secrets and sharing your problems, what happens?
Yeah.
Relieved. But the problem is, we live in a world where people have a scarcity mindset, and if you have a scarcity mindset, there's no abundance.
That's true. That's so true.
You know,
there's something that Russell Brand said. I love his books and his podcast, and I'm sure you've probably got a story with him.
Love him. I love
him. He said that he reminds himself to, when he's going to a meeting or a business pitch or something, that he's going into that space to be of service and not to gain something for himself.
If I can't bring you value in this or whatever this platform is or whatever you do, I really have no purpose. Because it's an abundant world. Now, here's the thing. The universe, whatever controls the universe, you could say infinite intelligence, there is something that controls the universe, right? So what I put back, what I put in, I get back. You reap what you sow, right? Cause and effect. People are looking for money, but money is an effect if the cause is right. And everyone vibrates on a certain level. So if I go around with this scarcity mindset, screwing people over, eventually someone is going to vibrate at the same level and screw me over. But if I give out so much, contacts, anything, I don't care. I give it away. Why? Because I get it back tenfold.
Yeah.
But I just give it. People like, you give it out too much. I'm like, no, I don't. What am I going to do? There's a great saying that I live by and I look at every day. You never see a U-Haul van or a moving truck behind a hearse at a funeral, because we take nothing with us.
That's so good. That really is.
Right?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Excuse my language. What are you taking with you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So at the end of the day, I'm writing 2 books this year. I give out chapters. I give so much out to people before it comes out. Why? Well, it's not mine. Look, everything comes from nothing. So in the sense of, it comes from an idea. So the Wright brothers wanted to create a plane. It came from an idea, which is not from, it's from nothing. And then then you sit down and you go through the process of the how and the what and with whom. So if I get an idea that inspires me to write about it, my purpose is to give it away to help the next person, not to hoard onto it or say, oh, you need to pay me for that. And if I make a little money selling books, great. But if I don't, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to give information to inspire, educate, and motivate.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I really love that, Mike. And that actually, you've reminded me to ask you about the book that you had last year, about the palm tree and antidote.
Well, you know what it is? It's like I was watching the image of a palm tree in a hurricane, and they just don't break. And I said, that's what a flexible mindset is, learning to bend and not break when the hurricane of life shows up. It's becoming malleable. It's post-traumatic growth. It's not the stress. It's like, this is good. It's all information. And I look at it like this. So I have 2 methods that if you practice these methods, and I live by them, you can't fail. When we are in our sympathetic nervous system, which means we're in fight, flight, or freeze, okay? That means we're disturbed two ways, either thinking, feeling, and acting, or the environment triggers you to be in fear. Now, there was a study years ago called Pavlov's dog, where Pablo rang a bell, fed the dog, rang a bell, fed the dog, rang a bell, didn't feed the dog, but the stimulus of the anchor, the trigger, caused the dog to salivate. So through enough repetition, because neurons that fire together wire together, if you hear a certain tone, like someone screams at you or something, you go into fight, flight, or freeze, right? Unconsciously. Now, if you stop when you feel disturbed, right, and you take a breath, you breathe diaphragmatically, you go from fight, flight, and freeze to rest and digest. Then you observe the disturbance. What am I afraid? I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I want, lose what I have, I'm worried about the future, or I have guilt and shame for something I've done in the past, right? I'm not in the moment. Then I proceed, right? So if you're emotionally disturbed, stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. Now, if you're ruminating, right, over and over again, worst case scenario, it's gone because you're only replaying something that's happened. You can't rewind it. I stamp on them. I stamp on the negative thoughts. What is you stop, you take a breath, you adjust the thinking. You can only have one thought at a time. Then you make the change and proceed. And if you get into the repetition of stopping and stamping, whether it's emotional thought, you become emotionally intelligent because you are aware, emotionally self-aware, if you're disturbed.
That's so incredible, Mike, that you can articulate that in such a straightforward and easy way. It just makes me think that so many people don't realize that the path they're on or the mindset they're in can be changed.
Yes, they're caught in an old school fixed mindset. And the problem with the fixed mindset is, which has been proven it's absolute crap, is that neurons that fire together wire together. Anything can be learned through visualization and repetition. And they proved that when they did this incredible, I've got it in my book, The 7 Steps to an Unbreakable Mindset, when they took these kids and they played basketball with them. And they made the 3 groups. One was told to practice 3 throws. One was told to do nothing. The other was told to visualize the 3 throws. And it was done with piano players, that when they put the scans on their heads, they saw, just from visualization, the same neurons were wiring together. Now, if we take that a little step further, and you hear someone, they say it's a crazy guy that's gone out and murdered a bunch of people, what's the first thing? The voices in my head motivated me to do it. So the language, what we say to ourselves daily, affects our emotional state, and our emotional state affects our behavior and actions.
Well, there was something I read recently, and this was only recent. I'm going to butcher the percentages. I'm not even going to take a guess, but a high percentage of your thoughts are actually thoughts from yesterday or the day before or the day before that. And so what you wake up in the morning, you immediately start thinking. You immediately start thinking about something from yesterday or the day before that or the day before that. You're not actually having new thoughts. So if you're able to catch yourself and realize, well, hang on, I spent 15 minutes yesterday thinking all of that through, and I'm actually now doing the same again right now.
Yeah.
That's what you're calling stamp, right?
Yeah, well, what it is you're expecting something to change, but you're carrying something, a predictable past into the predictable present, and you're going to create a predictable future. You have to interrupt that pattern. So what you can do, and what I do, is information in whatever you do. So if you're eating food, food is going to put information through the body. If you're taking a thought, that thought is going to put information through the nervous system, right? And different thoughts affect different parts of the body. So I'll give you a perfect example. If you think about sex all day, you're going to get horny, right? If you have compassion and love that comes from your heart, right? You resonate it. Now, this is a really crazy study. This is why it's important to have compassion and love in your heart. The heart and the cells of the body carry memories. There was a study where they found a girl and she had a heart transplant. And what they did is when they found that she was having these crazy nightmares, nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. So they went to a child psychologist, and the nightmares were very specific. They realized that the girl that she got the heart from was murdered, but it was unexplained. Through following the dreams of the girl, they realized the girl was murdered and was in a shallow grave. And they found the body and they found the killer.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
So it matters.
Yeah.
What you put out matters. There's DNA, there's quantum. It all matters. So if you want something and you truly believe that you can have it, and you're prepared. Look, successful people do the work no matter how they feel. Unsuccessful people only do the work when they feel good and they feel right. You're never going to feel good. You're never going to feel right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just got to drop the hammer and pay the price. Look, with enough time, enough money, and enough resources, you can get anything. Here's the problem. People don't know how to prioritize their time, right? They don't know how to minimize their expenses, and they're not resourceful.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true.
What do you need to run a marathon? A pair of shoes. And even then, you could run it barefoot.
Yeah. I actually, I saw, I passed someone running barefoot in the LA Marathon this year. So, yeah, you're right.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, so with me, I've discovered it's a beautiful thing. What you focus on expands. So if you're resentful and you're messed up, guess what? Everything sucks. Everything is half full, right? It's empty. But it's the opposite. If you are aligned here with purpose, truth, and you're meditating and you know how to create a gap. I always look at this. It's just information. Become curious. Take nothing personal.
Well, I think that aligns with Don Miguel Ruiz's four agreements, right?
Yes. He says, no, don't take anything personal. And he says, take responsibility and something else, whatever his one is. But he doesn't talk about curiosity or information. I just feel that if you become curious, like if you came at me with a harsh tone, like, screw you, Mike Diamond. Oh, that's interesting. Become curious. That person, because I can't change you. I'm not responsible for you. I'm responsible for me, how I react in the moment. I'm not responsible for what you do in the traffic. I'm responsible for how I react. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's the difference.
I think the important thing is to follow on from what you said before, Mike. Some people might be watching this or listening to this later that think, well, it's fine for you guys to talk about this, but I need to pay my bills. I'm stuck in a 9-to-5 or whatever. But what I've really noticed and honed in on incredibly in the last 6 weeks with my wife, Max, is really taking inventory on everything that we consume in a way, whether it's food, drink, information, technology, and make sure that everything is aligned with what we want to do and aligns with a positive mindset.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you or I, it's all responsibility. And if I take complete responsibility from who I am and the state I'm in, then I can't fail. It's when I start blaming the world, blaming everyone. That's why I say take nothing personal. You can't take... Hold on one sec.
Hey.
Sorry, man.
That's your son coming to say hello, Mike.
Oh my God, sorry. He's trying to bust down the door. He hears me talking. Here's a perfect example. Like, it's the repetition over and over again, right? Of what you want and why you want it. People can't figure out why they want what they want. Ever. They just
hello. Tell him to say hello.
Come here, Orlando. Come here then. Come here. He won't listen to me. Sorry. He's out of his mind. Sorry. and it's constantly being in aligned with your values and your purpose, and then doing that work over and over again. Sorry. And not being afraid. I think people have this crazy thing like they're going to fail.
Yeah.
But what are you failing at? Just change your approach. Just keep trying. Sorry. He snaps.
He's the boss of the house.
He snaps so bad. He's like me. I don't snap. He's fiery.
Well, there was something that I actually went back through some notes because you spoke on a panel that I hosted last year.
Yeah, with you.
And it was for the National Mental Health Day. Sorry, World Mental Health Day. And there was a question I asked that I want to ask you again.
Go. Sorry.
Why do you think that self-care is at the bottom of everybody's priority list?
Because what people do is they have their hierarchy and values is all messed up. For example, you said that I learned the greatest lesson when first got sober. And the guy said to me, I said, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. I had a list of priorities. He said, no, you just got to stay sober. I said, what do you mean? He goes, if you don't stay sober, spiritually well, you'll have no health and everything else will fall apart. So you can go out and make a ton of money, right? That's great. And then you can get to, say, 50 years old and be like a corpse because you value money. But if you don't have mental health, if you don't have spiritual health, nothing else can fall in line because you're not managing you. And we see it all the time where people, give you a perfect example, okay? Mental health, spiritual health is so important. And I'll tell you why. You look at a guy like Tiger Woods, for example. He can go out and he is really, really good at playing golf. But spiritually, there's some issues if he has that many affairs. Seriously.
Yeah.
Right? They're pretty crazy choices knowing that he has wife and kids. Bill Clinton was the same. Ran the country. Pretty smart guy. But why were you doing that with the intern? That means spiritually and mentally that you're not taking care of some certain things. Yeah. Harvey Weinstein, the Me Too movement. Do you see what I'm saying? So spiritual health and mental health, if you don't get them, because people really believe, because they've been conned, that if I go out and I acquire a certain amount of things in the world, I'm going to be happy. And I've dealt with the biggest rock stars in the world. I did an intervention on a guy, had a $30 million house, a gun in his mouth, and was living out one room in his house.
Wow.
That's just all fantasy. You can never put people on a pedestal. We're all doing the best with what we have. And if you're willing to do the work and pay the price in anything nowadays, because there's so much information out there, you can be successful. You know what I mean? Like you don't need a lot. You just need the courage to take the road less traveled.
That's it. And you know what's something that's stuck in my mind? I mean, I'm grateful for you right now to be having this conversation because I feel inspired and empowered by what you're saying. Somebody said something to me. It was within the first year and a half of living here in America. They said that, look, we just want the path of least resistance in life. And that's always stuck in my mind. I don't know whether that's sold as part of the so-called dream here, or whether that's just a belief that's from the past that people have held on to. But you don't learn anything about yourself. You don't move forward as your own person. Look, I believe that every person in this world is completely unique and has something of so much valuable to offer everybody else and the world. But there's only a small percentage of people that actually realize that.
What happens is, as we grow up, the first 7 years, the theta brainwave, when we're in that hypnotic state, we're programmed by our environment and people. And we have to create false selves and fantasy bonds because of our environment. You become people pleasers, whether it's school or family. Then you get to a point where everything is at a crossroads because emotionally you either go, this is the person I want to be because I feel I've got to fall in love with the unknown. People are so convinced that the predictable is right. That's why we eat certain foods. That's why we take certain drugs, because we know what we're going to get. But they don't fall in love with the unknown. They don't fall in love with possibility. They don't fall in love with process. And people that are imaginative or they, break through and we think they're extraordinary, they're not actually extraordinary. What they're doing is they're adding a little extra to the ordinary. They just know how to say, I'm going to stay in the process just long enough and stay in line long enough when most people will quit to get to the front. And that's just having faith in the process. That's saying, I believe so strongly that I can. Look, I should not. Look, there's not even a question. If you were going to bet money on me as a kid, you would bet against me. Undiagnosed dyslexia, kicked out of school at 16, completely drugs and alcohol at 12, no internet, comes to America with nothing, goes to New York. How the hell is a guy who just went to acting school going to do anything? So if you look at that, but you don't know what drives me, you don't know what's inside me. So I only fall in love with the process and possibility if I believe I can do it. And I'm going to go into if I'm going to go into the trenches with you, you're going to have to kill me. I ain't stopping.
Yeah.
That's how I'm wired as an addict. Do you know what I mean? So the good thing is, what I do is I just learn. So if someone else can read a book a week, I can read a book a week. So I read a book a week. If someone else can run 400 miles, I can run 400 miles. So I run 400 miles. And if I don't do it the first time, I just keep nodding away because I know eventually, it's like I want to sell something. I'm going to make the call until I sell it. I'm going to sell it. Most people get off the treadmill. Most people get off the treadmill in life, and they want the comfort to feel okay. I don't need to feel okay. I don't look for the feeling. I create the feeling.
Well, I think just to add to that as well, there were so many things running through my head as you just spoke then. And we are all guilty of it, because if I think about something about being consistent and persistent with something, it's so easy for your mind to say, well, look, you haven't had that engagement, or this hasn't happened, so why even bother wasting your time? But no, keep on that path, because a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, whatever it is, it transpires, it comes to fruition. And so many people give up at the first hurdle. So there's something that I could talk with you forever, Mike. There's something that I wanted to pull up that I mentioned when we were on the panel together, and I wanted to get your reaction of it.
Yeah.
There's something that's very dear to me because of everything that's going on right now. I'm mindful every day about the possibilities of mental health issues with everybody that doesn't know what's happening to them right now, whether it's anxiety for the first time. My wife is dealing with it horrendously. She had issues earlier in her life and got in control of it, and this has just triggered a lot of that back. So we're doing everything that we can to enable her to get on top of it mindfully and mental health wise. There's something I want to read out. Each of us can make a contribution to ensure that people dealing with problems concerning mental health can live better lives with dignity.
Love that.
What's your take on that?
I love that, because right now unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people will spiritually recover from the trauma of this experience. And the reason is because when something like when I sat in September 11th and I watched the buildings come down, and my ex-wife said, I'm out of here. And I sat in and I said, I got to figure this out. I unfortunately went back into using heavy drugs and drinking, made a lot of money, but I thought I could force my way through it. Getting through that and getting sober, now I don't have any fear of this. I double down on service because I've been through it. I have purpose. I know I have to bring value. But, right now, some people, because what happens, it takes a lot of humility to surrender to the fact that this is way bigger than us, and say, okay, maybe I had a 401k and it's done and I wanted to retire, right? But what gives us value is the ability to learn skills and try hard and bring value. So, and be humble enough, for example, if I have to go in with a job, go, okay, I can't make the money that I thought I should be making because the world is now in reset. And that's very, very difficult because people don't want to spend the time to be honest, you know, and look, this is the hardest thing that people don't understand. I do it with addicts all the time. And someone said to me, you run. And I go, yes. So like, it must be like when you do drugs. I said, let me just stop you right there. Smoking crack, which I've done. Doing heroin, which I've done. Taking massive amounts of acid, snorting cocaine, I've done. You cannot compare doing drugs with running. I never once ran the half marathon and felt like I did when I smoked crack. I was broken and sore. But yes, I was more elated by doing it, and I got to run aside. So if you go in there thinking, this is the result. No, you've already conned yourself out of the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to stop and reset and realize it's not personal. It's bigger. It's bigger than us. And if I can't get on this platform and I can't answer my direct messages when people reach out to me that are suicidal. As a perfect example, I had a friend of mine in Australia write a suicide note on Facebook, took 30 Xanax. I was driving to an intervention with my mask on, and I was like, why is my phone blowing up? And I checked it. It was in Australia. I had to call someone in Australia to intervene, to bust down his door, to get him into a hospital, a safe place.
Wow.
If I didn't check my phone,
yeah,
he's got 2 kids, he'd be dead now.
Yeah. Just before we wrap this up, Mike,
Yep.
Explain very quickly again, stamp, for people to...
Stop and stamp. Stop is stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed. You only do stop when you're emotionally hijacked. So you remember the emotions are jumping. You got to stop the emotion. Stamp is when you want to stamp on the negative before it starts ruminating. Stop. You always take a breath, right? Breathing gets you back into center. Take a breath. Adjust the thinking. Then make the change after you adjust it. So I've adjusted my thought process, cognitive. Now I'm going to make the change to be positive. Then you proceed. And I'll give you a perfect example, okay? So people say, that's not true, this, that. No, I'll tell you what. 2 athletes, 2 boxers, 2 UFC fighters are engaged in combat. It's not a pillow fight, right? They are in fight or flight mode, right? You're fighting away. When they make it to the corner, if they survive, what's the first thing the corner man says to them? Breathe.
Yeah.
Watch your fight next time. Breathe. They open the cup up because once you breathe diaphragmatically, if you know the sympathetic nervous system, the blood is in your hands and feet like animals to run or to do. Now, animals are different. They're in rest and digest when they're eating. But if the zebra senses the lioness, it takes off, right? But the one thing the lioness doesn't do that we do, once the danger's gone, it doesn't sit at the watering hole going, I hate lionesses, I hate lionesses, right? It's done. It uses its sympathetic nervous system to fight and flight and then rest and digest. So what we do, if we don't stand, if we don't breathe, like an athlete breathes, because once they're breathing, their prefrontal cortex, not their amygdala, their fight, flight, or freeze, is engaged, and then I can take in information and process it. Benjamin Franklin said this great thing. When he used to argue with people, and he was in fight, flight, or freeze, he would write a letter. And he'd go, I'm going to leave this in my desk for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks from now, I'm going to read it and then work out if I'm going to send it. He never sent a letter.
That's so good. Yeah. That's amazing, Mike. Mike, I'm collectively getting together an advisory board for the world, and I want you on it.
I would be honored to be on your board. I love you. You know I'm a big fan of you. I love you, bro. I love you, my homie. You know that. So
listen, we're going to wrap this up. I can't thank you enough for your time. You're an incredible human being. You have a fire and a passion that is so affectionate, and yeah, I love you for everything, mate. Just tell us where people can find your book and how they can find more information about you.
Okay, you can go to Amazon, 7 Steps to an Unbreakable Mindset. The Mike_Diamond. I am not the plumber, and I'm not the Beastie Boy guy.
You're amazing, Mike. Thank you so much, mate.
Thank you. You're the best.
Take care.
Bye, brother. Thank you. Should I log off now? Or?
Yes, mate. You're a star. Okay, thank you, everyone. Mike is an incredible person. I hope you got something of inspiration from him. I love his stamp analogy. I'm going to use that myself for sure. We have some incredible guests coming up next week, so please tune back in on connect.tv. Bye.